Before going on to the illustration, let me first remind you with the rules on how to analyze business transactions. So first, you have to analyze the transaction at the viewpoint of the business. So for example, if the transaction says purchased delivery equipment, so it means that it is a business that is buying the delivery equipment. Another rule is to consider yourself as the business. So when doing the analysis, you have to think that you are the business. So I think we guys are ready. So let's get it on to the illustrations. So we have here the first illustration, transaction number 1. Bought a delivery car for cash 600,000 pesos. So this means that the business purchased a delivery car for cash 600,000 pesos. And then remember what I told you, that when doing the analysis, you need to think that you are the business. You have to consider yourself as the business. For the debit, we need to ask ourselves, what do we received? Ano ba yung natanggap natin in this transaction? It's the delivery car. So, if you can still remember in the account titles, there is no such a thing as delivery car. What's in there is delivery equipment. So therefore, the most appropriate account title to be used here is delivery equipment. So our debit would be asset delivery equipment of 600,000 pesos. Now, for our credit, what do we parted with, or what do we give up in order to get the delivery car? Of course, it's the cash. So our credit would be an asset, cash for 600,000 pesos. Moving on to transaction number 2. Sold an old computer for cash at 20,000 pesos. Again, constant reminder, when doing the debit and credit analysis, you need to think, or you need to consider that you are the business. So in this transaction, what do we receive? It's the cash of 20,000 pesos. So our debit is asset, cash, 20,000 pesos. And what do we parted with, or what do we give up in order to get the cash of 20,000 pesos? It's the old computer. So computer belongs to office equipment. So our credit would be asset, office equipment of 20,000 pesos. Moving on to transaction number 3. Purchased laundry supplies and credit from SMCT, 35,000 pesos. So here in this transaction, what do we receive? It's laundry supplies worth 35,000. So therefore, our debit would be laundry supplies for 35,000 pesos. Now, what do we parted with, or what do we give up in order to get the laundry supplies? So here in this transaction, the laundry supplies are purchased on credit, meaning to say inutang, so hindi pa bayad. So there is a liability, and since there is no promissory note involved, so the appropriate account title to be used is accounts payable. So our for transaction number 4, pay the account with SMCT Davao 35,000 pesos. So this is in relation to the transaction number 3. In transaction number 3, we had the oral promise to pay for the laundry supplies that we purchased from SMCT Davao, 35,000 pesos. So, utang yon. So, for transaction number 4, babayaran na natin yung utang sa SMCT Davao na 35,000 pesos. So, what will happen here is that the accounts payable that we set up in the third transaction is going to be canceled. In order to cancel the accounts payable, we need to take it back by debiting the accounts payable. So our debit here would be the liability, which is accounts payable of 35,000 pesos. Now, what do we parted with? What do we give up in order to get paid? That is cash, worth 35,000 pesos. So our credit would be an asset, cash, 35,000 pesos. For transaction number 5, purchase an office table on account from MCOR, 25,000 pesos, and a promissory note was issued. So here in this transaction, what we receive is an office table. So table is a furniture item. And since it is used for the office, so our account title to be used is office furniture and fixtures. So our debit would be an asset, office furniture and fixtures of 25,000 pesos. Now for the credit, so what do we give up, or what do we parted with in order to get the office furniture and fixture? So it's a written or a formal promise to pay, since there is a promissory note involved. So our credit would be a liability, notes payable of 25,000 pesos. Transaction number 6, pay the account with MCOR 25,000 pesos and get back the promissory note issued. So this is in relation to transaction number 5. So here in this transaction, the obligation that occurred in transaction number 5 is now paid. So the promissory note that was issued will be canceled. So meaning to say, the notes payable account that is set up in the previous transaction will be canceled by debiting the notes payable account. Since, diba, the notes payable in the 5th transaction is credited because there is an obligation. Now that it is paid, the notes payable is debited. So our debit is liability, notes payable of 25,000 pesos. And credit would be cash, 25,000 pesos.